Hey guys, I hope you have a fantastic Christmas, and I did promise you one additional gift on Boxing Day, the most exciting day, let's be honest, so here it is. Today I want to share with you my ranking of every single level in the original Harry Potter trilogy. That is the Philosopher's Stone, the Chamber of Secrets and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Full disclaimer, this just involves the PC versions of these games. I'm not talking about the console ones. They are completely different games that I think maybe deserve their own ranking. I was really thinking about doing this since I started tackling the Philosopher's Stone, and back then I just did a quick search and realized I can't find a single video of anyone ranking the levels in these games. There's plenty of videos ranking the games themselves in the entire series, but nothing for the levels specifically, to break it down to what actually truly matters, the levels themselves. I still have not managed to find a single video of anyone who would do this, so I'm hoping that I'm gonna do something new, and maybe afterwards we'll see more people doing their own ranking. Now guys, full disclaimer that I need to say, these are just my own personal opinions. Please don't take it as a personal insult in case I'll rate a level that you absolutely love lower than you would expect. Disagreement is part of the fun, and honestly, the best thing you can do if you vehemently disagree rather than making an angry comment is make your own ranking video. That's the best thing. I hope to see more of these, and to have someone rate videos in a way that you would absolutely not expect is the most fun, really. So please, I hope this will encourage a lot of you to do your own ranking, so to speak. If you don't feel like making an entire video about it, because it is a lot of work, just drop a comment or something like that to share your own ranking maybe, or what are your top 3 picks, or the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, okay? Furthermore, in this video, we are also gonna sort of cheekily rank the games themselves. There are gonna be 4 level categories. There's gonna be bad levels, which are gonna award 1 point. There are gonna be okay levels I can't call good or bad, that are gonna award 2 points. Then there are gonna be actually good levels that I really enjoy playing, that are gonna award the game 3 points. And then phenomenal levels, each an absolute masterpiece, that are gonna award the games 4 points. And gradually, as we move from the bad to okay, okay to good, and good to phenomenal category, we're always gonna stop by to see how many points Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets and the Prisoner of Azkaban has, okay? Just to sort of have the games played out in between themselves as well as a battle royale. Well, out of 3 participants, I know, but they should still be fun. Also, another important disclaimer, I am gonna be talking about the Chamber of Secrets using the extended mod and drawing distinctions in both the ranking of the game as well as the levels between the retail version and the extended mod version, because there are quite a few differences. Furthermore, if I was to consider the retail version of Chamber of Secrets, today we would be talking about, I think, 63 levels. But since I'm including the extended mod and some extra levels you can put into the game, we're actually gonna be talking about 69 levels, which is very nice. So, just wanted to be very transparent about that. There are some of you who will be purists and say it's not fair to include a modded game. That's fine, I'm gonna cover that as well to make everyone happy, and you decide which ranking is more relevant for you, okay? But I think it's also important to rank the experience we had over the past 3 years in terms of tackling the Advent Calendar series, okay guys? And another important disclaimer, since I'm gonna start at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, we're gonna start with some really bad levels, absolute stinkers, and gradually move our way to the top of the list. And it's gonna be really exciting to see what the top 3 levels are, okay? So I just wanted to say that the video is gonna start a bit more negative and sad maybe, but gradually I'm gonna get happier and happier the more I talk about levels that I actually love, okay? That's it. Enjoy guys, grab yourself some warm drink. I again have something over here. I'm so happy that you can join me this year's Christmas for some cozy ranking of games that we all absolutely love. Starting at the very bottom of the list, scraping the bottom of the barrel, the dungeons from Prisoner of Azkaban. Now I know guys, maybe it's not fair to consider this a separate level, it's more part of the interior of the Hogwarts castle, but it being inaccessible at the very beginning and then followed by an actual loading screen, I still remember how excited that made me the first time I played Prisoner of Azkaban. And then I found out the truth. 2 traders, 2 locked portraits, and nothing else. This is an absolute joke compared to the Chamber of Secrets version of dungeons. No Snape, no Bloody Baron, where are all the Slytherins? No potions classroom. This is absolutely unforgivable, for which I consider this to be very fairly placed at the very bottom. Tom Riddle's Diary. Okay guys, might be a bit strange to consider this a separate level, but hey, it's followed by a loading screen, and this was one of the things I was really looking forward to the first time I played the Chamber of Secrets. How are they gonna handle this? Well, they just briefly plopped us into the reused dungeons corridor with everything being locked. We do get to see Tom Riddle and younger Hagrid, but where's younger Dumbledore? Where's Moaning Myrtle being transported around? It just lacked that something. This was my favorite story point of year 2, but it feels like an afterthought here. Also, no new unique parts of Hogwarts is shown here. And also, it took the extended mod to actually restore the line where Harry says to Ron that it's been Hagrid who opened the Chamber of Secrets long ago. The Devil's Snare. So the first truly bad level of the Philosopher's Stone game. This can be quite a fun game of whack-a-mole if you try to do this without getting hit, but otherwise there are really no redeemable qualities here. It is brief, it is too simple, and also the audio balancing is off the charts, with the vines screaming each time you hit them with Incendio. Absolutely insufferable. But hey, there's Hermione's hanging hair physics, so that almost makes up for it. The Glacius Final Exam. Now guys, this is hardly surprising, an absolute stinker of a level. There really is no exam here, just a short slide and a combat arena, and the combat arena would have been a welcome, maybe optional addition to the game, but like this, it just feels like they were running out of ideas. It's almost the developers screaming, "Leave us alone already, we want to quit." Anyway guys, also there's no good warm fuzzy feeling for 100%ing it because you have to actually go out of your way to avoid the challenge shields here. So the compliment from Professor Flitwick feels completely unearned. The only reason this gets any points from me at all and is not at the very bottom of the list is that there is some increase in difficulty. I just wish that difficulty wouldn't have to do with constant salamander crashing. Anywho guys, as a final note, this level has no background music. I think that says everything, and unfortunately this being the final unique level of Prisoner of Azkaban always leaves a very bad taste in my mouth. The Chess Game. Now this is difficult for me as someone who does enjoy a good game of chess, but what they did in the Philosopher's Stone is kind of unforgivable. It's a chess game setting for a non-chess puzzle. A puzzle that can be a little bit enjoyable once you figure it out. However, the fact that it has nothing to do with chess and actually turns your knowledge of chess against you is unforgivable. It seems like the developers were actually scared to let us play an actual chess, and this being a kid's game, against an easier opponent or maybe in an advanced stage of the game. But breaking all the rules of piece movement just feels very cheap. Furthermore, unless you use the save game book after the initial cutscene with Ron, you're stuck in an endless loop of rewatching it over and over, which is why the chess game is quite low on the list. The Library. I'm amazed how much I have to say about such a short level, but none of it good. So first of all guys, hearing the words library already sets my expectation after the previous two games, given the amazing library in the extended mod for Chamber of Secrets and sneaking up and down the tower in the Philosopher's Stone. However, throw all those ideas out of the window. No Madame Pins to sneak around here, no real secrets to find. Talking about secrets, the game even lies to you saying you have 4 secrets to find here, which confused the living hell out of us as kids, not knowing that what it actually refers to is a separate instance of the 4 Hogwarts Castle secrets, and you will always see 0 out of 4. Furthermore guys, so many missed opportunities. The good thing I can say about it is that lighting up the fireplace as per the portrait is a really neat idea, but it would have been a neat idea for a secret, not for a mandatory way to continue. It is too obvious. And they could have done a little something to maybe give us a timer after getting the fireball pickup, but no, there's just no effort put into this level, and therefore I'm done talking about it. Protecting Sirius from the Dementors. This was supposed to be Prisoner of Azkaban's first real take on the final boss, and yet all it does is end up being even more underwhelming Expecto Patronum lesson. The thing is, whilst the emotions are high and the cutscenes are amazing, there's just 2 waves of Dementors. This is way too short, way too easy, and also the hospital cutscene afterwards just reminds me of how much was lost in the transition from Chamber of Secrets to Prisoner of Azkaban. But hey, the moonlit atmosphere is amazing, so are the cutscenes, and just listen to Hermione go, "Ah!" Anti-Demento lesson, or Expecto Patronum lesson. This, my friends, is the shortest level in the Prisoner of Azkaban game, and that's saying quite something. Even shorter than the dungeons if we consider both the portraits and the goodies behind. Barely anything new here. Expecto Patronum is a mechanically different spell, which I appreciate due to its charging and releasing mechanic, but it's way too easy, too generous, and the boggarts, in this case not the Dementors, are way too slow. If this would be faster, I would enjoy it so much more. The good thing I can say about it, however, the music here absolutely kicks ass. That is, if you can hear anything through the imbalanced screeches of the Dementors. The final Dementor encounter. Considering this is what the game has been building up to, I cannot rank this any higher within this rating. First and foremost, this is a rehash of both the anti-Dementor lesson and protecting Sirius Black from the Dementors. We started with wave of 1, then 2, then 3 Dementors, then when protecting Sirius Black we went from 3 to 5 Dementors, and the game's idea of the final boss is going from waves of 3 and 5 Dementors to a wave of 7. Again, if these things would be moving faster, it would be a lot of fun, but I was imagining an entire horde of Dementors. This just doesn't cut it, but for a higher number of Dementors, it is rated higher than the previous 2 levels, and unfortunately, there is no awesomeness in the gameplay. All the awesomeness is concentrated in the beautiful cutscenes. Chamber of Secrets Part 2. Guys, it is so heartbreaking to include the titular Chamber of Secrets within the bad category of levels, but here we are. There isn't much good I can say about this one. First of all, they messed up the secrets count, showing us 3 out of 4 secrets, despite the 4th secret not even existing in the game. Furthermore, the boulder section feels just like a poor man's version of the amazing troll chase from the first game, and honestly, when I think about it, it feels like the second part didn't need to be split with the first part at all. There just isn't much to offer. The one good thing I can say about this one is the addition of the tough as nails fire crabs that require 3 Rictus Sempra casts. An absolutely welcome addition, but unfortunately a little bit too late at the final room with the pendulum, which makes them very easy to avoid. The Greenhouse, original retail version. So guys, I'm making a distinction between this version of the level and the one from the extended mod of Chamber of Secrets. We're gonna get to that later. For now, let's look at what the actual official retail version had to offer. Almost nothing. This, my friends, is the shortest level of Chamber of Secrets with nothing really to offer, and it seems like the original concept was scrapped due to some hardware limitations. Furthermore, this has absolutely nothing to do with the greenhouses we're supposed to break into up until that one solitary greenhouse at the very end, and by then it's too late. Furthermore, this level has the audacity to introduce spiders, and you know how much I hate those things. Anywho guys, I can't really say that this level is offensively bad, but it is incredibly disappointing, and as a kid, I was really hoping for something like sneaking up to the tower, but with Professor Sprout. Instead, what we got was spiders and emptiness. Rescue Buckbeak. Hearing this name, I think all of us imagine something awesome, especially since Prisoner of Azkaban already demonstrated it can pull off hippogriff flying. But no, instead, what we get after Shrieking Shack is a much easier, shorter level that completely kills the suspense and pacing. Now, the Time Turner had so much potential to revisit earlier levels or places and situations and events from different perspectives. Instead, the Time Turner takes us to a new location in middle of nowhere that is completely empty. Heck, even the characters say so when they enter. This is a colossal disappointment, and again, it's one of those levels that just shows to demonstrate how character switching should have been up to us, the players, but doing it automatically removes any puzzle element from this level and many others whatsoever. The Quidditch, Chamber of Secrets version. Guys, I decided to combine the Quidditch practice, all the generic Quidditch matches, the finale against Slytherin, and the extra against Slytherin match you get in the extended version of the game into one ranking, so it's all together. Now, what I want to talk about is the sheer bafflement I have that they dumped down the previous game's Quidditch where you actually had to follow the Golden Snitch. Here, everything is done on rails, and to this day, I haven't really figured out how to make the Golden Snitch bar fill out quicker. In the previous game, it was depending on how close we were. Here, it just seems to have more to do with the enemy seeker, which is very annoying. Furthermore, it's so boring I tend to fall asleep, but I am putting it this high within the bad levels category simply because of its one and only redeeming thing, the behind the trenches action. Here, the Golden Snitch bar never stops bleeding unless you hit something which is due to your own fault, and it feels good, it feels difficult, it feels action-packed and dynamic, and honestly, the quips between Harry and Malfoy are an absolute highlight. So, for a brief moment, we see the brilliance Quidditch could have been in this game, but unfortunately, it still remains in the bad level category due to everything else. Chamber of Secrets Part 1. My friends, again, this breaks my heart to include here in the bad level category, but take solace knowing that this is the best and final of the truly bad levels of these games. So why is it here in the first place? This is supposed to be the grand finale. Well, that's exactly what the final gauntlet in Philosopher's Stone felt like, but not the Chamber of Secrets. What a snooze fest. First of all, Ron does absolutely nothing to help his little sister, doesn't even lift a finger, and conveniently we are once again separated. Furthermore, why on earth are there spiders in a place dominated by a basilisk, the creature they fear the most? This never really made sense and just screams, oh, we're running out of ideas for varied enemies here. Furthermore, it really feels like it didn't need to be split with part 2 because all of them feel rather small and underwhelming, and honestly, the only bright spot in this level that I can talk about is the amazing Malfoy theme that plays in the chamber with a devilishly placed fire crab, which feels so rewarding descending down and finally getting rid of the bastard that's been sniping us throughout this whole chamber. Excellent design for this final chamber, which is why this bad level has some good spots in it and gets to enjoy its highest rank amongst the bad levels. So guys, that wraps up the bad levels. Let's look at the points awarded to each game, starting with Philosopher's Stone earning 2 points for 2 bad levels. But you know what that means? That leaves a lot of place for much better levels. Chamber of Secrets is awarded with 5 points due to 5 bad levels, and I'm very sorry to say Prisoner of Azkaban gets 7 bad level points. This bodes ill for you. Third game. But anywho, I hope you enjoyed the bad section, and we're on to move on to the okay section. Levels that I'm not jumping out of joy to play, but that are not offensively bad or anything and are quite passable. So let's enter the next okay category. The Forbidden Corridor. This is kind of what the Philosopher's Stone has been building up to, and the first level, so to speak, doesn't really have that much to offer, which is why it's at the bottom of the okay list, because ultimately this is just one linear corridor, but what awaits at the end is a truly spectacular reveal. Fluffy is absolutely terrifying, and trying to put his always randomized heads to sleep whilst not getting bitten a single time is a fun challenge, and I think a really lovely interpretation of the way the books described this challenge. The Quidditch Philosopher's Stone version. Again, this is how the Quidditch started, which is why it's also surprising for me to see it above the one introduced in the sequel, but here we are. Complete free movement of the broomstick. Whether using the original tank controls or the more modern modded control scheme, you have full control over Harry, and it is entirely up to your skill to catch the snitch as quickly as possible. This feels incredibly liberating and rewarding, as if the game almost trusts you to do a good job. Furthermore, depending on which team in the optional Quidditch mode in the main menu you are fighting during the finals, that's the kind of background you get. You get an evening sky or a night sky in the finals against Hufflepuff, which feels amazing. I wish there would be this kind of variety also for Slytherin and Ravenclaw. Nevertheless guys, Very enjoyable, but also outside of snitch catching, very little to do with the actual game of Quidditch, which is why this is relatively low in the levels ranking. The Winged Keys. This one rates directly above Philosopher's Stone Quidditch for one simple reason: it is exactly the same thing, but a little bit more difficult and engaging due to the swarms of flying keys you have to avoid. Otherwise, not much else to talk about. It takes a bit longer to actually catch the wing key, directly increasing the difficulty, and I think the entire map is an absolutely lovely recreation of the movie scene. However, there is no real sense of urgency here because you have exactly as much time as you want. So this level shouldn't really rank any higher in my opinion. The Remembrall Chase. Again guys, this feels like natural progression of the ranking, kind of a more involved and fun version of the Winged Keys. Here, it's more involved. You have multiple ways you can avoid Malfoy. You can chase him directly, or you can tackle the whole map from the wrong way and see it from different angles, which I really recommend you try at least once. Furthermore, at certain intervals, Malfoy, as he politely warns you, will throw bludgers at you, so again, this is actually a little bit more unpredictable and dangerous than the Winged Keys or the Quidditch. Therefore, it ranks above both.
You damaged my broomstick, Potter!
The Flying Car. This, my friends, is the first entry from the Chamber of Secrets extended mod, and I cannot recommend enough giving this one a go. The fact that the author of the extended mod managed to restore this into a functional state is a miracle in its own right. Furthermore, it naturally, I think, builds up upon the complexity of the previous flying levels we've seen in Philosopher's Stone via introducing a speed boost and also an increasing difficulty in terms of the searchlight speed, the smaller gaps in the lightning, and the wind blowing. One way it, however, really increases the difficulty, not a particularly good way, is taking the speed boost away. That's not a fun way to increase the difficulty. Nevertheless, this is an absolute treat and a miracle it works at all. Hogwarts Grounds, the Philosopher's Stone version. I never really ever forget the first moment I stepped outside of Hogwarts and stepped onto its grounds, with sun shining on us, the first time I played this as a kid and Hagrid coming to say hello. It was truly amazing, but that's probably because I didn't realize just how small and limiting this is. It does get expanded as you're about to go to the herbology lesson, but otherwise Hogwarts grounds don't really have that much to offer. However, they did manage to do a little bit of passage of time moment with the shrubbery Hagrid is cutting, some optional dialogues, the sheer disbelief when you get accepted as the Gryffindor Seeker, and honestly, just listen to this laugh from Crabbe and Goyle, the best one in the game. The Carpe Retractum Final Exam. I'll be honest guys, the first time I heard that there are gonna be final exams in the third game, I was excited. I imagined the normal spell challenges with ramped up difficulty and complexity. And what we did get was a more watered down version of those challenges, which is a huge bummer. However, what I can say about the Carpe Retractum Final Exam is that there is some increased difficulty in platforming, and this is a welcome addition. However, all the platforms and Carpe Retractum statues move so slowly that it's just a tedious waiting game. Also, I can't help but wonder why they decided not to mark any of those clearly existing but unmarked secrets in the level, why every final exam has only 0. This seems like an odd choice, and they could have filled these up with all sorts of goodies. Anywho, the positive note I'd like to end on, parts of it remind me of the open Hogwarts exterior area from a much better level, a Philosopher's Stone level that I'm gonna get to higher in this video. The Herbology class. Similar to the Chamber of Secrets, this level really suffers from being split from its continuing level Incendio Challenge, and without it, it just feels incomplete. On the other hand, it also feels very punishing when right after spell learning, after finally making it through all 4 stages, you can get hit by a gnome around the corner, permanently lose a bean, and having to reload the game from the very get-go. This feels like they really missed a save game book there. Nevertheless, I do like this level, if for anything, for one simple reason: it has one of my most favorite secrets in the game, the little gnome kingdom underground with a small river, chair and table, and Newt Scamander card. Something so magical about this. Furthermore, it very nicely teaches you via cutscene and an optional interaction how to put up with the Devil's Snare in the future levels, which is amazing. And the overall theme of both the Herbology class and Incendia challenge seems to be get rid of harmful plants and help the harmless plants like the tree or the small potted flowers at the very end, making for an incredibly charming level. The Bean Bonus Room, Prisoner of Azkaban version.
Oh!
This might be a bit shocking and harsh how low in the list I'm including this level, but the fact that you only get to spend 2 minutes on it leaves a lot to be desired. Furthermore, no matter how well you perform in the spell challenges in the third game, doesn't really net you any more time in these, and that's why it feels so disappointing. Also, it's the ultimate reward for collecting all wizard cards in the Folio Universitas, and honestly, compared to the golden card challenge of the previous game, it's a big letdown. Also, it has some pacing problems. The first visit only gets you beans, the second visit gets you most pasties and cakes, but the third visit gets you less pasties and cakes, which never made any sense to me and seems just like an outright mistake. Nevertheless, guys, I have to admit there's something very satisfying about collecting varied kinds of goodies, including the 5 bonus cards at the very end. The Potions Challenge.
Oh!
Not to be confused with the actual potions lesson from the sequel, the Philosopher's Stone Potions Challenge is a much needed increase in platforming difficulty. The first foray into the Philosopher's Stone dungeons is truly memorable. We do meet Professor Snape, finally, although a bit later than the story would benefit from. On the other hand, we also get to be left alone, no one telling us what to do, we're just completely alone in the dungeons to make our way through, with Bloody Baron watching our every step, and accessing secrets that only he makes accessible from a fraction of a second is truly a test of courage, and I will never ever forget this level. The only stinker, it is again split with the previous potions lesson, and also upon finishing it, no matter how many challenge stars you get, you're gonna lose not 5, a lovely round number, but an uneven 3 house points. God damn it, Snape. Aragog's Lair.
Oh!
For those of you who know I'm a huge arachnophobe, it might be surprising just how relatively high I put this level, but I have to say Chamber of Secrets' first foray into boss fights is an acceptable one, which is why it's in the OK level category. It consists of 2 stages. First, you need to destroy the support beams and ignore or fight the other spiders, his children, his absolutely horrifying brood, and you can then proceed to the next stage, which unfortunately turns into a complete and utter Rictus Sempra spamfest, but the way you have to avoid the slime he throws everywhere is a little bit engaging and can be a lot of fun. Furthermore, the music here absolutely kicks ass, that is, if you can hear it through Aragog's sounds. Hogwarts Castle, Prisoner of Azkaban version.
Oh!
It is very sad that I have to rate an actual Hogwarts Castle exploration this low here at all, but that's Prisoner of Azkaban's Hogwarts Castle for you. It feels, compared to its competitors, like an empty, lifeless husk. Previously, they were either magically changing in the Philosopher's Stone each time you moved through the known corridors, or in Chamber of Secrets, the more spells you learned, the more you could explore. Here, the more goodies you find, the more you explore to find goodies to explore more, and it all just creates these very pointless feeling loop very quickly. Furthermore, a lot of the good stuff is hidden behind the password protected portraits, which often don't even yield back the same amount you pay in cauldron cakes converted to their bean cost. I took the notes and I did the math. There may be 2 or 3 portraits that actually are worth it in this regard. The rest are just mandatory to finish the game at all. Exploration should never be forced on us. On the good hand, there is at least a couple of boss fights sprinkled in, and I'm talking about 3 appearances of Peeves, one in the lava armor which you can miss if you play too well and finish the 3rd year early, or the Monster Book of Monsters encounter, which actually can be a lot of fun to do without letting a single page hit you. And the 5 card rewards are actually a lot of fun, a full set of heck cards. And on a final positive note, just look at what they pulled off with the cozy Gryffindor common room. The Tunnel to Shrieking Shack.
Oh!
I have very mixed feelings about this one. It starts with the Whomping Willow, which is relegated just to a cutscene, a huge disappointment after the awesome tutorial level in the Chamber of Secrets that the game starts with. Furthermore, it seems like despite this being the longest level, it never really truly wants to fulfill its potential of difficulty increase. Even the stairs puzzle at the very end automatically switches characters for no reason and reveals highlights when you are able to cast Rictus Sempra so that you cannot even make a mistake, which completely removes any point of accomplishment from actually putting it together correctly. This is this late in the game truly unacceptable. On the other hand, the atmosphere is top-notch, it is the game's longest level, which I truly appreciate in such a short game, and also Harry and Hermione splitting to go their separate paths and rejoining is something I would love to see more of in the game. And as an absolute highlight, just listen to what Ron has to say about this level. Hermione's Quest.
Oh!
Another entry from the awesome extended mod. This is an odd one. It's a level that takes place when boys decide to visit Hermione in the hospital wing, but before they actually get the clue as to Basilisk's weakness, because Madame Pomfrey is in the way. Now here's the thing, guys, I like this level, but context is everything, and the whole thing feels like too much work and effort to accomplish very little, just to get past a nurse, which is odd. Furthermore, Ron again does absolutely nothing. They could have at least relegated something to cutscenes. Nevertheless, I don't want to complain too much because it's impressive that the author of the extended mod managed to restore this one in the first place, but it's an optional module you don't have to put into the game if you don't want to. Nevertheless, what redeems this level and puts it this high in the list for me is one of the best puzzles in the game with the moving dragon statues. I absolutely love this. There is only one puzzle that I love more in the Chamber of Secrets, and I'm gonna talk more about that later. Furthermore, the fact that Peeves reveals the secret to this entire level in the first place is an absolute highlight for me and really takes me back to sneaking down the tower from Philosopher's Stone. Anywho guys, I really like this quest for what it is. Incendio Challenge.
Oh!
Now, a lot of the thoughts I have about this one are already echoed in my previous Herbology class entry. However, there's a huge number of spots in between these two levels. Why is that? Well, first and foremost, I think this is Philosopher's Stone's first real horror level, and for that alone it ranks so much higher than the Herbology class. Furthermore, the fact that there are so many different kinds of venomous tentacula of absolutely insane sizes, and the lighting is used to great effect, blows the atmosphere through the roof here. Furthermore, what truly captured my attention as a kid was that elusive skybox past the small windows when climbing up the tower. This has kept me enthralled as a little kid, and I didn't know that many decades later I'm finally gonna see the skybox in Chamber of Secrets extended mod. So why is this level not even higher? Why is it still in the OK category? That's simply because it feels completely incomplete without the Herbology class. If these two levels were combined, we'd be somewhere else already. But alas, with them being split, I cannot in good conscience rate this level any higher. The Dungeons, Chamber of Secrets version.
Oh!
Not to be confused with the worst level in the trilogy, The Dungeons in Prisoner of Azkaban, what I'm actually talking about is us plundering Snape's larder in the Chamber of Secrets, searching for the Bicon Horn. Now this is an interesting level because on one hand it is visually incredibly boring, especially compared to the fantastic atmosphere and aesthetics of the previous Philosopher's Games dungeons. Here everything is very bland and muted. So why do I rate this level so much higher? It honestly has the best puzzle in the entire game. The 4-color maze is the best one. Just be very careful not to hit 2 flipendo switches in quick succession, combine cutscenes and mess up not just your FOV, but also be stuck in the game, right? But it is incredibly fun to figure out the optimal path whilst collecting the surrounding secrets. You don't have to. There are traps here which almost makes this feel like a proper Tomb Raider game. And furthermore, finally, the extended mod elevated this level a little bit higher via restoring a line about these potion mixing devices. Until I played the extended mod, I had no bloody idea we are essentially jumping through giant cauldrons, and that just elevated this level somewhat higher, despite many frustrations I have with it. Left Lockhart Challenge.
Oh!
I'm sorry, I don't really have a better name for this level or what to call it, but unless you're gonna enter the entirely optional restored library in the Chamber of Secrets extended mod and find a particular secret fireplace where Lockhart's fan club is clearly meeting and access this level after Spongify Challenge, you're not even gonna know what you're missing out on. So first of all, this level is very colorful but also very monotonous, and the whole level just feels like a very early draft of the Spongify Challenge, which we'll cover much later. It does offer some good things. It has some of the best secrets in the game in my opinion, and the unique interactions you have to have with the environment are seen nowhere else in the game. But ultimately it doesn't rate higher because it just feels like an unfinished draft. That's probably what it is, but lovingly restored via the extended mod. The Glacier Spell Challenge.
Oh!
This is the lowest rated of all 3 spell challenges within the third game, and for a good reason. It consists of a lot of ice slides, and whilst these are mechanically new and therefore automatically exciting, for me as a completionist an absolute nightmare, as 100%ing this challenge and therefore the game is not possible due to the randomized thrown beans, and also beans and 1 single pumpkin pasty placed in a way you can never ever access. It is absolutely infuriating and I will never forgive them. Furthermore, there are multiple ice barriers on the slides that could have been used, like the thorns in Chamber of Secrets, for example, the boulder section, you having to cast at them before approaching. But like this, they serve no purpose other than to conceal goodies behind them, which isn't fun, it's just annoying and requires more trial and error. So there's that. On the other hand, the third game finally handles the splits within challenges much better than the Philosopher's Stone, and all the in-game stats for this level carry over to the second part, which is why you don't hear me talking about Glacier Spell Challenge Part 1 and Glacier Spell Challenge Part 2. Furthermore, absolutely excellent use of blue and orange colors throughout the level. The salamanders are the perfect contrast. Now I just wish the game wouldn't constantly crash.
Take care now, Harry.
The Whomping Willow.
Oh!
So happy to talk about this level, especially considering we previously talked about Whomping Willow being just a cutscene in the third game. In the second game, it is an entire tutorial level, and the fact we are rating the first tutorial level this high tells you a lot about how well the tutorials were handled in this trilogy. First and foremost, the way it quickly covers all 3 carried over Harry Potter 1 spells in this game is amazing. Unfortunately also dictates that Wingardium Leviosa and Incendio are now gone, but it's fine, they'll be replaced with something equally interesting. Furthermore, it also combines into a platforming boss fight of sorts where you have to navigate around the Whomping Willow before you can free run. And finally, way less hand-holding than in Harry Potter's Once Fred and George tutorial, which we're gonna cover as a separate entry of the Hogwarts Castle in that game. Rictus Sempra Challenge.
Oh!
I'll be honest guys, the first spell challenge of Chamber of Secrets does not make a particularly good impression. It looks very bland and with the exception of the portrait room, has very forgettable environments and music. There's just nothing particularly memorable here, which is why it's within the OK category. But there's a reason it ranks up this high in the OK category, and that's simply because it is a Chamber of Secrets spell challenge. The formula of you first completing and then speedrunning a challenge is something I just cannot get enough of, and the reason why it inspired me to tackle 3 separate speedruns of the entire 3 games. Furthermore, they do a really good job of introducing rather large bestiary here, although pixies are here only in the extended mod. In the retail version, they're delegated to the Scourge challenge, which is less story accurate. The Dueling Club.
Oh!
Now, why am I ranking a minigame higher than an actual spell challenge? Good question, and the answer is, it finally feels like we're putting Rictus Sempra to good use. Before, we were able to achieve everything with just Flipendo, and now suddenly we need Rictus Sempra? Well, the Dueling Club is where it actually feels powerful, although Expelliarmus's cricket bat, not bottle, will be your guide. Now, the reason I rank this level relatively highly is that it's a fun minigame of Pong with changing environments and increasing opponents' health pools. So there is a natural progression of difficulty, and the way this ties nicely to the story and Harry being the prime suspect due to Parseltongue is truly spectacular. Furthermore, the terrible retail version Parseltongue has been finally fixed in the extended mod. Hogwarts Grounds, Prisoner of Azkaban version.
Oh!
This is an odd one, the best of the just okay levels, for a couple of reasons. There are many negatives here. There is the whole Pixie Infestation minigame, which is boring, tedious, endless, annoying, hit detection is terrible, and they tend to get stuck behind garden architecture. Then, you also, just like in the Hogwarts Castle, don't get to explore any new areas via learning new spells. I feel like Hogwarts Grounds could have been perfect playground for that. And furthermore, the entire student traffic here just comes down to ever-repeated copy-pasted cut cellars, because there was nothing else to fill the area with. These are all problems. However, unlike the Hogwarts Castle, the secrets here are fun. It finally has a Lumos statue that does multiple things for which you actually need to do some exploration. You get to walk to the Stone Circle and Hagrid's hut and ravage his pumpkin field, and this is also where the ceremony where you end the game takes place, which feels very rewarding. I just wish the game would actually give you a choice to depart Hogwarts and not automatically quit early for doing too well and skipping the 3rd Peeves boss fight. And for this level will remain at the top of the OK category, but not make it to the good level category. Now, wrapping up the just okay category of levels, let's look at how the games are doing. Philosopher's Stone had 8 entries, granting us 16 additional points for 18 total. Chamber of Secrets had 5 entries, plus 3 additional ones via the extended mod, so if you include the extended mod or not, you get either 10 or 16 additional points, for a total of 15 or 21. And when it comes to the Prisoner of Azkaban, it had 6 entries in the just okay category, granting us 12 points, for the total of 19. So Prisoner of Azkaban is in the lead, but being in the lead this early on when we started with bad and okay levels is a very bad sign. Anywho, let's move on to the good level category. A bit of Goyle.
Woo!
I'm starting with a good level that I really don't like, and I have a bit of a difficulty telling you exactly why. See, the thing about A Bit of Goyle is that it's a level that truly opens up and lets you explore fully. However, this also leads to a lot of awkwardness. There is an absolutely phenomenal atmosphere in the extended mode via it taking place during Christmas at a snowy night, and it feels like we're sneaking somewhere we shouldn't be, made even more important via the restored Pigs section close to Goyle. You need to Rictus Sempra these things and then move past them, or Goyle is gonna wake up and you're gonna fail, which was not the case in the retail version. If this was retail, I would not even put it in the good level category. However, due to the tedious and confusing level design and also having to carry a gnome in case you want to harvest all the beans, this doesn't get any higher than the very bottom of the good category. The Bean Bonus Room, Chamber of Secrets version.
Woo!
It's interesting to talk about this much higher than the one in The Prisoner of Azkaban, but I ultimately decided it deserves a much higher spot for one simple reason: each visit is completely different, because during each visit you get to explore different areas of it. Now, to be fair, once you know Rictus Sempra and Scourge, the loop doesn't get all that extended. However, once you learn Diffindo, it gets better, and once you learn Spongify, it feels like a true and utter celebration of your second year achievements. It's great. It's a great motivator to earn more house points to extend the timer, unlike in Prisoner of Azkaban where the timer is fixed. And honestly, the sheer joy I feel when I see those Spongify camera angles just cannot be described. Furthermore, in the extended version of the game you get to visit it one additional time with no timer whatsoever, however by that point there is no point in farming beans, but if you're dedicated, Dueling Club is a much better alternative. Gryffindor Tower Challenge, or Coca-Cola promotional level.
Woo!
Yes, you heard me correctly, this was an odd one. This is fully accessible in the retail version's game files, however you need to use the debug console to access it. Its entrance is in the Gryffindor common room, always blocked in the original version, unless you have a particular promotional version of the game. In the extended mode, you can access this freely once you master Spongify. So what's so special about this one? Honestly, I never thought we ever get to explore the Gryffindor Tower, and we finally have. Now I have to say there are a few things I don't like about this level, namely the music, which first feels exciting and new, but then you realize how short the loop is and gets incredibly repetitive, and furthermore the number of secrets tends to be a bit bloated and misleading because each secret wall you open just branches off to two another additional secret walls you get to open. But that is not to say all secrets here are pushovers, absolutely not. Also, the whole level at the very end with fireworks just feels like a lovely celebration of wrapping up the discovery and exploration in Hogwarts. Now imagine what a Ravenclaw tower would look like. The Basilisk's Lair.
Woo!
Yes, there is a technically third part to the split Chamber of Secrets part of the Chamber of Secrets game, and this is it and the best one so far. Just a pure boss fight level. Now, there are those controversial serpent heads which will hurl fire that are very difficult to get through without getting hit, that the extended mod has actually disabled permanently, which I'm still not sure I prefer or not, although the last time I played I was so annoyed by them I cursed myself for cursing the extended mod for removing this trap. Nevertheless, everything about this boss fight is exceptional. There's 2 stages, you get to use the Sword of Gryffindor, although as a more powerful wand rather than to actually do any stabby action, and also the fact that when you defeat the Basilisk it accidentally drops dead on top of Riddle's diary and ends up piecing it with its fang never ceases to be funny, although it does discredit Harry's thinking somewhat. Nevertheless, leagues better than the Aragog's boss fight, and also, whether you prefer them or not, extended mod changed the color of the Basilisk to be more movie-like, and also the random fire effect at the very end, which made no sense in the sewers whatsoever, was replaced with a water effect. I prefer these changes. The Potions Lesson.
Woo!
I'm as surprised as you guys are to see how far it is from the subsequent continuation, the Potions Challenge, but that's exactly how I feel about this level. The first taste of the dungeons, the dark potions classroom with creepy professor, students who don't want to help us, and the traps sprang on us really increases the difficulty, or at least the perceived difficulty. Although this is, just like I echoed in my previous entry for the Potions Challenge, the introduction of the Bloody Baron, and the first impression is always the strongest. The silence, us being left to our own devices, and the excellent platforming reminding me of Crash Bandicoot's Temple Ruins is something truly spectacular. As a cherry on top, there is an actual Wingardium Leviosa puzzle at the very end, where you need to think before you act. A rare occurrence in Philosopher's Stone. The Flying Lesson.
Woo!
In this entry I'm including both the basic course that you need to tackle in the main story and the advanced course you can access via the Quidditch menu in the main menu of the game. The implementation is not great, and furthermore tackling the advanced course does not really yield any additional house points to the main game, which is a huge bummer. The integration is terrible. So why am I rating this so high? Just listen to the action-packed remix of the main menu theme of the Philosopher's Stone. It's the first time we even touched the broom, made a very strong impression on me, and honestly, flying through all 82 rings in record time is a feeling unlike any other. This feels a far more meaningful objective than the Quidditch because there's no timer, or the Winged Keys because there's no timer. This one has a sense of urgency, and for that extra flourish, make sure to get all rings in time whilst collecting the hidden secret that has not been accessed by any student since 19th century. This makes the flying lesson the best flying experience in the Philosopher's Stone, but not the best flying experience in the trilogy. Care to guess which flying tops this one? Corridor to the girls' toilet.
Woo!
I alluded to this level in the second part of the Chamber of Secrets with its not particularly impressive boulder section. Well, this is what it should have been like, a proper chase, a proper perspective, a proper sense of urgency, and a bean collectathon. I love this level. Really, the only truly bad thing I can say about it is the typo in the name. Yes, it says girls' toilet as if it's a toilet for just one girl. Furthermore, I find it hilarious that Hermione is perfectly safe, but Harry and Ron lead the troll to her. I don't know if this was intentional by the developers or not, but it makes me laugh every single time. The actual boss fight at the end brings this level down somewhat because it's not that much more involved than your basic Harry Potter 1 Peeves. However, some of the most detailed environments and an awesome homage to Crash Bandicoot make it one of my most favorite levels. The Hogwarts Express.
Woo!
The first, what I'd consider good level from Prisoner of Azkaban is its tutorial level, and for a very good reason. Just like Chamber of Secrets' Whomping Willow, it covers the characters, mechanics, exploration and collectibles. It also gives you a crash course on carried over spells like Alohomora and Lumos, although nothing really carried over from the second year, with the exception of Rictus Sempra, which has a new symbol unless you fix it, and that symbol is applied on Rictus Sempra and this one on Dipalso. Yeah, this is a bit odd. Nevertheless, I cannot really mark it down against this level. It does a tremendous job introducing all the key characters, including your friends, Professor Lupin, Crabbe and Goyle, Malfoy. It gives you your first boss fight, a proper one, unlike the Whomping Willow, and furthermore, the cozy train atmosphere contrasted with the absolutely horrifying Dementor introduction is top-notch. It also sets up a future sense of power progression once we defeat an entire army of Dementors towards the end of the game. I adore this level. Lumos Challenge.
Woo!
I think we would be hard-pressed to find a more atmospheric level in the Philosopher's Stone, and Lumos Challenge just fits the bill. I think of this level when I think of the game. Heck, I think of this level when I think of the words magic for a good reason. The colors, the lightning changes as you slowly light your path through dark places, and the absolutely phenomenal use of silence brings this level this high up into the good level category. Now, there are many of you for whom Lumos Challenge is perhaps even one of your favorite, if not the most favorite level, so why am I not rating it higher? And the reasons are two. First of all, the repeat of the worst boss fight in the game, Peeves, who sucks, and you have to take some mandatory damage when entering his arena, and every single Lumos gargoyle results in an unskippable cutscene that takes control away from you, the player. This slowly adds up and becomes incredibly annoying and honestly brings down the whole Lumos Challenge a notch. Nevertheless, I cannot help but be in love with this spell challenge, and also the little nice moment when we encounter Nick, a friendly face amongst this horrifying silence, is truly something special, reminds us that he exists, and sets up something way cooler when we'll be sneaking down somewhere later where we shouldn't be. Carpe Retractum Spell Challenge.
Woo!
In many ways similar to the Lumos Challenge, I do have to concede I like this one more. For once, the control is no longer constantly wrestled away from us, and it introduces the most fun spell in the game. Unfortunately, only tied to Ron, no one else will use it, and it's mostly abandoned in the main story. However, you can let loose and crazy in this spell challenge. It is so much better than the Carpe Retractum Final Exam by the virtue of being actually not more difficult, but more mechanically complex, longer, varied, and it's an introduction to the spell challenges in general. One only bad thing I can say about it is the introduction of the fire crabs made me realize how nerfed the enemies will feel and what an overall lower difficulty Prisoner of Azkaban has compared to the previous two games. But then they reintroduced the wizard crackers via the imps, and I am happy again. I like this level a lot. The Draconiforce Lepiforce Final Exam.
Woo!
Not to be confused with the spell challenge, we'll get to that later. This is the best of the 3 final exams, easily. However, none of the final exams I would call a phenomenal level. I think this one is still in the good category. It starts with a very satisfying loop which you complete first as a bunny, then as a Hermione, encountering different kinds of problems, which is a lot of fun, and then you have a relatively free range how you want to tackle the dragon section and in what order you want to collect the challenge shields. And I can't recommend this enough. Please do speedrun of this level, just going for the final shield. It is a ton of fun if you hit the replay button after 100%ing it. It does, however, make me feel a bit bittersweet due to the timers in the challenge. Now, don't get me wrong, I love these, they give it a sense of increased difficulty and urgency, but this just reminds me there are no overall timers in the spell challenges of the 3rd game. And I'm thinking back to the Chamber of Secrets, missing the timed runs. Nevertheless, guys, this is the best of the final exams. The Greenhouses Extended Version.
Woo!
It's really interesting for me to talk about the sort of alternate extended mod version of a level we have already graded, and that's the extended greenhouses for you. This is an optional model you don't have to put into your extended mod game, and I can't recommend it enough. After trying it for the first time on 25th December, so exactly to the day 1 year ago, I fell in love with it. Now, on one hand, it is very expansive and it mimics the actual Hogwarts model architecture with multiple cascading greenhouses. It has this epic adventurous feeling and you progress via looking after plants, just like in the original herbology lesson. However, at the same time, it feels, visually speaking, a bit unfinished in places and maybe too spread out. I feel like if its size would be reduced, it would feel in many ways complete. Nevertheless, it's mechanically so much more varied and interesting than the original greenhouse level, and after trying this just once, I'll never ever go back to the original. The Scourge Challenge.
Woo!
If you ever wanted a Halloween level in your classic Harry Potter game, this one hits the spot. Ghosts, floating candles, headless horseman painting, and ghostly ectoplasm everywhere. This is the ultimate Halloween level. I can't recommend it enough. Furthermore, improving the overall level design, there are areas that loop in over and under themselves, and you feel like you're making gradual progress from different perspectives. This is truly an exceptional level. However, as much as I love the level design, Peeves is making another appearance. His boss fight is still the worst, not at all improved over the Philosopher's Stone, and honestly, there isn't enough visual variety throughout the level. You'll see the same dark brickwork everywhere, and for this, I cannot really rate it any higher than in this good category. Forest Edge.
Woo!
Now this is a level split done well. It feels completely natural to split one part of the level when we try to reach Hagrid's hut, and then another part of the level which is a new quest he sends us on. I would like to see level splits like this in Philosopher's Stone more. Nevertheless, what we get here is phenomenal because we're for the first time stepping outside of Hogwarts grounds where no student should absolutely be caught, and we're using the spells at our disposal to make our own way through the dangerous wilderness. And felling the giant woodlogs with Flipendo never ceases to feel powerful. Furthermore, there's also the one and only secret we missed with my brother because we thought we're so good we don't need to Flipendo the 3 snails to avoid them. Little did we know, there is another secret in the following level which we have also missed, but later about that. Flipendo Challenge.
Woo!
The very first spell challenge in the trilogy, and what a versatile spell. Pushing objects around, climbing on blocks you get to push around, triggering switches or hitting those cauldrons and vases for some extra beans, as well as being a combat spell. This is an amazing amount of variety you get just after learning the very first one. It also helps that Flipendo Challenge is just warmer, with warmer colors, with safe, happy music, whereas it does get darker with creepier music in more dangerous places. Furthermore, the platforming design in the very first spell challenge already allows for some smart moves, where if you think ahead, you can actually have an easier time and hit switches later or sooner depending on how cocky you feel. Great variety for the very first spell challenge. Furthermore, it is rather front-loaded with tutorials and explanations that cannot be skipped, but as you progress, it gets lighter and lighter, and for what is essentially a continuation of a tutorial, I can respect that. If I was to say one negative thing, it's the introduction of gnomes as the very first enemy sets an expectation that perhaps every single enemy is able to steal beans from you forever if they hit you. However, this is unique to gnomes, although this is not strictly speaking explained by the game, and you only find out later via much trial, error, blood, sweat and tears. Hogwarts Entrance, the Chamber of Secrets version.
Woo!
Guys, there is so much I want to say about this. Imagine someone combining the dungeons and the Hogwarts castle from Prisoner of Azkaban, but actually doing both justice. That's what you get in Chamber of Secrets. The grand entrance is grander even than in Philosopher's Stone, expanded via balconies with additional floors, and contains the largest dungeons explorable area we've ever had, where it's only too much fun to see Bloody Baron flying around, sneak up on Slytherins to try to enter their common room and annoy Snape for plundering his potions classroom. Furthermore, the fact that the lesson takes place here and we finally learn to mix the Wiggenweld potion we unfortunately missed due to Snape's fault in Philosopher's Stone is very cathartic. Furthermore, this is where we get the first proper taste of the Metroidvania element of the game telling you, you want to get here, you'd better learn the new spell and come back later, and you get plenty of opportunities for free-form exploration of Hogwarts. Furthermore, this is the first time outside of a cutscene we can freely access the Gryffindor common room. Always a warm and welcoming place, although not as good looking as in The Prisoner of Azkaban in my opinion. Nevertheless, this is a truly spectacular place. The only bad thing about it? It is a separate area from the Hogwarts staircases, unlike in Prisoner of Azkaban, which managed to combine both. However, once you realize how much stuff is in there, you'll understand. Right Lockhart Challenge.
Woo!
The counterpart to the previously spoken about Left Lockhart challenge, this seems to be an unfinished Rictus Sempra challenge draft that they scrapped for the actual Rictus Sempra challenge, which is a bummer because I prefer this over the Rictus Sempra spell challenge. Nevertheless guys, this is just like before, secretly accessible from the optional library area in the extended mod if you turn towards the right in the secret Lockhart fan club meeting place, and becomes accessible after the Rictus Sempra challenge. With no notification or anything, you have to find this out on your own, which feels already very rewarding. What I love about this is that despite it being a scrap design, it has new traps and mechanisms rather than it being reuses of used in the main game, completely unique ones here, and furthermore, the storybook music playing here from the Philosopher's Stone just always brings a tear to my eye. And finally, there is a secret tower lookout, where Professor Lockhart clearly spends a lot of time painting himself whenever the inspiration hits him. An absolutely charming level, and I can't believe this is an unfinished design that was lovingly restored via the extended mod. Hogwarts Grounds, Chamber of Secrets version.
Woo!
Similar to the Prisoner of Azkaban, I rate this higher than the interior part of the castle, or one of the interior parts of the castle, the Hogwarts main entrance. And the reason is mostly, if I'm being honest, the extended mod. Not only does it give us more opportunities to access this absolutely beautiful sprawling area at night, but also whilst it's snowing during Christmas time. And if you just decide to pop in for an unexpected visit to Hagrid's hut, which you can also access in the extended mod, you're gonna find a cute little Christmas tree on the table. If, however, you're gonna try to do the same transfigured into Goyle, you're not gonna be quite as lucky, which is still hilarious. Exploring this place and seeing the snow falling on top of all the surfaces is absolutely charming. Now I just wish we could also access this place whilst it is snowy but during daytime. Nevertheless, this contains even more secrets than the Hogwarts main entrance and is truly a sight to behold. Furthermore, this is the first look we take at Hogwarts after escaping Whomping Willow at the very beginning of the game whilst it's nighttime, and coming in full circle, we walk the same grounds at nighttime whilst following Ron all the way to the entrance to the Forbidden Forest, where the events with Dumbledore and Lucius Malfoy play out in front of it. The only shame, this is not taking place inside Hagrid's hut and us being under invisibility cloak, but I understand it would be too much of a constricted area for a proper camera movement. Care of Magical Creatures, or the Hippogriff Flying minigame.
Woo!
My friends, I promised you the best flying level in the trilogy. Here it is, flying on top of Buckbeak, even better than the flying lesson with Madame Hooch despite its basic and advanced course. Imagine 5 entire courses where you can actually 100% them if you are truly dedicated. It's one thing to aim to get all the cards, which you need to finish the game, it's a whole nother to do every course without missing a single ring. Now, where this sucks is that the game, and Hagrid specifically, doesn't tell you you can speed up and slow down. But once I realized this and I implemented that into my toolbox, the flying became like a second nature and an absolute rewarding feeling, flying throughout Hogwarts grounds in areas we've never seen before through the bat rings. The music that plays here is truly phenomenal and liberating, and I just feel absolute joy and freedom when doing this. Thank you so much, Prisoner of Azkaban, for at least introducing us to the Hippogriff flying. It is the most challenging but the most fun side content / minigame in the trilogy.
I bet you're not dangerous at all, are you, you great ugly brute?
The Forbidden Forest.
Woo!
The beginning of the endgame of Chamber of Secrets takes place in the scariest area of them all, the Forbidden Forest, with all sorts of monsters and beasts. Indeed, you will find powered up versions of enemies here, like a giant venomous tentacular that we haven't seen since the Herbology lesson or Incendio challenge, also spiders that need 2 Rictus Sempra casts, as well as tougher pixies, and giant rapid fire bowtruckles. These are all welcome additions to make the game feel more difficult as we're nearing the end. However, the pacing is somewhat killed via the endless Horcrux, and if you are a completionist like me, the patience you need to have to let the gnomes eat them all whilst they constantly keep getting stuck and falling on their buttocks. This is the one and only thing which spoils my enjoyment of an otherwise excellent level, where a small Lumos spell at the very beginning will be your guide throughout the whole level. Furthermore, this level feels like a natural continuation of the first game's Forest Edge in many ways, but taking place at nighttime. The final encounter.
Woo!
What is essentially Philosopher's Stone Epilogue, the very final level, which, if completed properly, will get you the final wizard card, the house cup, and a secret ending. You get 2 challenges in one. First, the potions challenge, which honestly with my eyesight just makes my eyes hurt, but I appreciate that it's a unique new gimmick and minigame with ever increasing difficulty. Just wish Hermione would actually tell us from the get-go which potion is correct. But where it really lies is the encounter with Professor Snape. I'm sorry, I mean Professor Quirrell, who would have thought? So first of all, the first one is a bit clunky. If you both cast at the same block with Flipendo at the same time, it can get permanently stuck and you'll have to reload the game. And also, once you actually align the 2 blocks and reach him, he can just randomly decide to rapid fire Avada Kedavra, stun lock you and kill you. That never feels great. But if you push past this stage and make it to the fight with Voldemort himself, boy, you're in for a treat. The final and the best boss fight of the first game is again consisting of 2 stages. One where you have enough cover to hide behind homing Avada Kedavras and the rapid fire ones, and the other where you're gonna lose access to the pillars you had to collapse on him and rely entirely on Mirror of Erised. This is phenomenal. Surrounded by fire, the very final encounter with the one who killed your family, you get to have your revenge. I just wish the Mirror of Erised would be a more reliable partner. The Library, Chamber of Secrets version.
Woo!
What if I was to tell you that the best good level is in fact cut content that was again lovingly restored via the extended mod? Essentially 1/3 of the explorable Hogwarts castle interior areas in Chamber of Secrets the library. Taking notes directly from Harry Potter 1 Sneaking Down the Tower, you will see the same layout of the same bookshelves last year you were sneaking around behind Filch's and Mrs. Norris's back. Coming here whilst it's open to public is cathartic. Not only can you uncover an entrance into 2 additional secret areas, if you revisit after learning the Scourge spell, you'll get a nice reference to Peeve's promotional art from the earlier years, and furthermore, it contains the one and only Lumos statue in the game that doesn't make something disappear, it makes something appear out of thin air. 2 spiral staircases allowing you to go up. Furthermore, it contains the game's scariest secret, a horror section where the music goes completely quiet, and you'll be surrounded by spiders, ghostly laughs and traps. And finally, you get to see what the skybox I alluded to in the Incendio challenge is all about via absolutely magnificent view from the castle wall. The list goes on. This also happens to be Hermione's favorite place where you can bump into her, although she doesn't have that much to offer, but if you're truly sneaky, you get 1 single point in the main story where you can actually go off the beaten path, follow Hermione and visit her as she's studying Basilisk during the night. And entering the library at night is a truly special experience, especially if you imagine that shortly after she will get attacked by Basilisk. Absolutely horrifying. Now guys, the cherry on top for this level? The No Wonder Thank You Message secret, which not only contains 112 beans in all the chests, but also a lovely thank you plaque behind a passable through portrait, which mirrors one of my favorite secret areas from the Philosopher's Stone. It truly warmed my heart to experience this for the first time, and if for nothing else, please experience the extended mod just for the library. Now, with heavy heart, I have to wrap up the good category of the levels. Starting looking at the Philosopher's Stone, we had 7 solid good entries giving us 21 points, leading to the total of 39. And here's the fun part, we are tied with Chamber of Secrets, which gave us 8 good entries, gave us 24 additional points, leading to the total score of 39. However, if we consider the 3 entries from the extended mod, it means 33 extra points and a total of 54. So depending on if you're considering retail, it seems to be evenly matched with Philosopher's Stone, and if we consider the extended version of the game, then it's higher. And when it comes to Prisoner of Azkaban, only 4 good levels, good entries giving us 12 points, leading to the total of 31. So lagging 8 points behind both Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets retail version. Anywho guys, let's move on to the absolute highlight of the video for me, the phenomenal levels. Every single level listed here is in an absolute masterpiece category. There are no just good levels. Everything you're gonna see from now on is what makes these games worth playing. Starting with the Golden Cards Challenge.
Whippity!
What a perfect way to end almost perfect game. Golden Cards Challenge is accessible only if you find 40 silver cards, which makes it feel all the more precious when you actually achieve it, as you gradually unlocking the entrance throughout the entire second school year. The suspense is absolutely killing me until I get to this point, and it results in one of the, if not the most fun level to speedrun in the game. Not only does it offer many paths forward, and each small challenge results in you collecting a golden card, which have been elusive throughout the entire game, but also there are countless shortcuts you can discover throughout your run to improve your time over and over and over. I've only recently learned about the portrait you can find in the Scourge slime room, and essentially lumos your path above them. This was an enigma, a mystery to me, and I'm sure there are more secrets I don't know about that I can find here. This is pure and utter joy, and after you finish it, you get to walk down a gallery of ginormous portraits made out of these golden wizard cards, some with interactable features like sounds, fireworks, moving cursors, the list goes on. An absolute celebration of a fantastic game. Sneak Down from the Tower.
Whippity!
After Harry's being unburdened, no longer having to carry an entire life dragon under his cloak quietly somehow, he needs to get safely back to his common room. And in many ways this episode feels more like a filler. Maybe the story should have just cut and progressed to the next part of the story. On the other hand, this way it gave us one of the best levels of the first game. Furthermore, the difficulty naturally increases. On the way down, Filch teams up with Mrs. Norris, and now you have a silent watchman to watch out for who will surprise you stealthily. Furthermore, discovering Nick, or maybe better put, Nick discovering you, is one of the biggest sighs of relief I've ever had in a video game. Being absolutely terrified of being discovered, this friendly ghost appears for the third time in the game and actually helps you out. He's a real bro. And honestly, so is Peeves, opening the door at the very end, showing everyone Peeves is only playing for Peeves' team. This help gets rid of Filch. I love how Nick and Peeves both help you out so much more than bloody Dumbledore, who says your name out loud in the Mirror of Erised room and then leaves you to fend for yourselves, which is just incredibly cheeky. But anyway, the whole level is phenomenal. The increase in difficulty as you have to navigate jumps whilst an entire hostile character is platforming along you is honestly very impressive that they pulled off in this engine. Honestly, the only negative thing I can say about this, but it doesn't decrease this level as a masterpiece, is that occasionally there are points where you have to wait for Filch to move away, which is never fun. The Fireseed Caves.
Whippity!
Like I said in the previous entry, waiting is never fun, and that's the only negative thing I can say about this level, is that you have to wait for the fire seeds themselves to cool off before you can pick them up. I don't understand this decision. How is waiting a fun game mechanic? But if you put this aside and have the patience for it, this is one of the best, if not the best level in Philosopher's Stone. First of all, the incredible sense of isolation and solitude here is on par, honestly, with Tomb Raider levels. You get this sense of being outside in nature, somewhere where no one has been for ages or maybe even centuries, although I guess we're led to believe that Hagrid walks this path commonly. This is your first glimpse of proper, wild, untamed nature after the Forest Edge, and despite the blocky engine, they did a phenomenal job. Furthermore, secrets are often foreshadowed earlier than you can get to them, sort of enticing you with more thorough exploration. Enemies involve in complexity. There are Doxies that can take multiple flipendos, venomous tentacula that grow extra heads, and also, if you are very thorough in your exploration and find all fire seeds, you get an extra card and acknowledgement for Hagrid. 21 fire seeds nets you the Salazar Slytherin wizard card, which is such a good recognition of exploration. I wish this would be present in more levels. And finally, guys, just to show you what an expansive level this is, it contains the one and only secret I didn't know about until 2 years back, when one of you guys have pointed out via comment, hold on a sec Zalgaris, I think you missed a secret, and I absolutely bloody did. Fall down next to the waterfalls to the cave here to find 2 chests. Now my life is complete. Hogwarts main entrance, or second floor landing.
Whippity!
I have decided to combine these into one single entry because they are the same level, just depending on your entry point, they will be labeled differently with different nomenclature. Now, to many of you guys, it might be a heresy to rate this higher than Chamber of Secrets' Hogwarts main entrance, but hear me out please. First of all, this doubles as an excellent tutorial level for the Philosopher's Stone. Sure, you cannot skip a lot of the cutscenes and it's very handholdy and drawn out, but you get introduced to Fred and George, Ron Weasley, Hermione Granger, Peeves, Quirrell, later on to Snape, and also the whole place serves as my most beloved and favorite point in the Philosopher's Stone game, although not the best level, and that is after our first Quidditch match victory, we get to free roam and interact with students. Remember when you've been to school, whether elementary or high school, when you had the big break, the one that takes 20 minutes, at least here in Slovakia that's considered the big break, you could actually roam around the school, and this is how I felt, except I was in Hogwarts. Furthermore, there is one of the best, coolest hiding places Fred and George have come up with behind the fireplace over there, and you get an entire boss fight with Peeves here. And sure, Peeves sucks, he sucks a lot, but the fact that I managed to fit a boss fight into this explorable area is truly impressive. Now guys, this is not the best explorable rated area. There are a couple of things that hold it back. First of all, I feel the appearance of Snape here exiting the Forbidden Corridor before the potions lesson is complete nonsense because we don't really know who he is. Also, our third visit of this place, when me and Ron decide to go to the girls' toilet corridor to save Hermione, it all could have essentially just been a cutscene. But what matters is that this also highlights one of the strongest parts of the Philosopher's Stone, the constantly magically changing Hogwarts. And there's no better example than the secret behind the mirror, which goes up and then down. Or is it the other way around? I cannot remember now, but it completely changes upside down. Hogwarts Staircases, Chamber of Secrets version.
Whippity!
If there was ever a beating heart of Hogwarts, it is this exact area. Whilst Prisoner of Azkaban combined this with the Hogwarts Grand Entrance, none of these were particularly grand. Despite Prisoner of Azkaban having 7 floors and Chamber of Secrets only having 4 and as a separate map, it managed to fit more here than the entire Hogwarts castle in the Prisoner of Azkaban. Now, I'd like to start out by saying it has 4 floors. The first floor leads to the Golden Card Challenge, which we talked a couple of entries about earlier. Then the second floor, which leads to all the set pieces we know, the corridor with the dreaded message, the Charms classroom, the Transfiguration classroom, Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, a perfect recreation from the movie. And if you play the extended mod, it leads to the library. Third floor has Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. Fourth floor has the hospital wing. And finally, you're not supposed to know this, but third floor has another secret, Dumbledore's study, quite possibly the most beautiful and serene location of the entire game, and I need to consider it part of this level. Furthermore, if you are playing with the extended mod, at the end of the game you get to enter and exit Dumbledore's study freely, first exploring it at night, later at daytime, and you will see the day and night cycle here on display in all sorts of classrooms, decorated with Christmas trees during Christmas time. This is truly spectacular. Furthermore, in the extended mod you will not only see freeing the Dobby cutscene, but also you'll get a full recognition from Nick, Moaning Myrtle and Dumbledore in here for defeating the Basilisk and helping everyone recover. This is absolutely amazing. You can also use the hospital wing almost as a museum or collection of victims of the mysterious killer that turns everyone into stone, thankfully, not kill. And people think it's Harry looking up on his own victims. In other words, if there ever was truly life-breathing, living Hogwarts, it is right here. If you're looking for the ultimate Hogwarts exploration experience in these classic games, you want to look for it in the Hogwarts Grand Staircases. The Diffindo Challenge.
Whippity!
This, my friends, is the largest level of Chamber of Secrets, and it is not just the largest, it is one of the most fun, if not the most fun one. You get to learn the spell for not just getting rid of plants, but cutting cobwebs and ropes, which is incredibly satisfying and already way more versatile than the Incendio. So what makes this challenge so much fun? Well, first and foremost, the very end is right above the place where you start, which is tantalizing, and I love level design that loops in on itself like this. Furthermore, it has multi-layered secrets inside secrets, where you're rewarded for thorough exploration, observation and thinking before acting, like cutting ropes early or something like that. In other words, the complexity is truly increased, and in many ways it feels like the developers were really flexing how far they've gotten with their knowledge of using the engine to create truly spectacular levels. Furthermore, this level introduces Bowtruckles which leave the Wiggentree barks behind, which in the original retail version of the game caused a huge imbalance because you wouldn't have enough Flubberworm mucus and would have to buy the extra, and there are no Flubberworms in the game to drop these. But the extended mod took care of that and filled the game full of jars of Flubberworm mucuses to make up for every single Bowtruckle you encounter, which then is a truly great confirmation, brewing those potions without being left with some extra ingredients, knowing that you explored things thoroughly. I absolutely love Diffindo Challenge for its colorful palette and for the absolutely amazing soundtrack that plays here. It is an absolute joy, but it is not the best spell challenge of the game. Wingardium Leviosa Lesson.
Whippity!
The best spell challenge of the first game, in my opinion. Yes, I cannot forget the fact that we learn here not one, but two spells, and Alohomora is the toughest spell symbol to actually trace 100% of. If you pull this off, you have truly mastered it. Starting from now on, Hermione, pretending to be a rule follower, but she's the biggest rule breaker of them all, will teach us how to break in everywhere and give us this satisfying sense that we're somewhere we shouldn't be. This sets up future exploration for the entire rest of the game, the entire Chamber of Secrets and entire Prisoner of Azkaban. Extra points for that. And already, the first few secrets you find here after learning Alohomora already contain a secret within a secret, which is truly wonderful. Then we move on to learning Wingardium Leviosa, which was completely forgotten about and underused in the rest of the game. Here in Wingardium Leviosa Lesson is used well, and to move the blocks using either the keyboard or the mouse feels great, like a full mechanical control over your spellcast. And then, once you actually step outside and realize how huge Hogwarts is, so huge that you cannot even see the bottom of the grounds, I am truly left speechless and wondering, what else can we explore here? What's behind that window over there? I still remember the first time I experienced this as a kid, and since then I have been in love with Hogwarts. This is the callback I talked about during our Carpe Retractum final exam lesson, although there it's a much weaker version of what Wingardium Leviosa Lesson already pulled off. Two absolutely amazing spells, one short but brilliant, memorable spell challenge that stays with you for a while with cool secrets, and this just makes for the best spell challenge of Philosopher's Stone, but not the best level. The Slytherin Common Room.
Whippity!
I had no idea I'm gonna fall in love with this level so much, but the fact that we are playing as a different character, well, sort of, kind of, it is still Harry, is extraordinary because it makes the way you approach platforming different with a heavier frame that feels it handles jumps differently. Furthermore, the feeling that we are somewhere we absolutely should not be is incredible. Similar to the dungeon section of the Philosopher's Stone, the Slytherin Common Room of Chamber of Secrets is exactly the point at which it introduces tougher platforming. What is it about dungeons and tougher platforming? I truly do not know, but the fact we do it also with a heavier body frame, making it a bit more awkward, is perfect as a difficulty increase. Furthermore, I think Harry is the only Hogwarts student to have accessed two different common rooms, his own Gryffindor common room and the Slytherin common room successfully. This time, again, as is the theme for these games, without Ron, but what matters is that you can even fail to access the girls' part of the common room and actually get Goyle into trouble, not yourself, and there's a very clever secret that if you retrace your steps after talking to Malfoy about the heir of Slytherin to the boys' common room, you're gonna find a secret, which is pretty cool. You get to mingle with Slytherin students. The amount of varied lines they recorded just for the purpose of them being convinced you are Goyle are absolutely hilarious. Whether it's prefects suggesting that you go break other people's presents or locking Gryffindors outside until frost forms on them, it shows Slytherins as vicious little creatures that we all know them to be, which is absolutely hilarious. Finally, there are really excellent secrets in here, and what's more, the final section where you turn back into Harry and you need to sneak out. That's a lie, you don't sneak, you run. But the clever way to do it is via the library secret that you might not have discovered earlier. Now's a good time to discover it and to pull this off, making for one of the scariest and toughest parts of the game with the music to match. Now guys, for those of you who are keeping up with the count, you know there are 3 more levels remaining. There's gonna be a level in the 3rd place, the 2nd place, and the first coveted place, the best level over the entire trilogy. What I didn't know when I started working on this video is that these 3 levels are gonna be from one of the 3 games each, and they're actually gonna reflect my own feelings about the games themselves if I was to rate them. Now, without further ado, let's give the third spot for the third of the 3 games and the third best level to Prisoners of Azkaban's Draconiphos Lepidophoros Spell Challenge. Maybe not very surprising that the game's most beautiful level ends up being my absolute favorite, but here we are. Now, say what you want about the Prisoner of Azkaban, but it does one thing really well, and that's that each of the new spells, whether it's Expecto Patronum you have to charge, Glacius that creates slides, Carpe Retractum which allows for completely new kind of platforming, and Draconiphos Lepidophoros which introduces completely new control schemes, all these spells introduce completely new mechanics. They don't just remove obstacles created specifically for these spells, like the Scourge Ectoplasm. And with Draconiphos Lepidophoros, mastering the new control scheme feels like taking control of an entirely new character. In many ways, one of the greatest flaws of Prisoner of Azkaban is not being able to switch to characters strategically, the game doing it automatically. Well, with Draconiphos and Lepidophoros, it finally feels like you're in control, and this feeling is much needed. Furthermore, the spell challenge introduces Bandymen, which are mechanically fun. Not only you get rid of them via a spell, but you can physically jump on them like on Goombas to produce an extra reward and get rid of them quicker, or you can actually combine that with Lepidophoros, stun them as Hermione and jump on them as the bunny. I can't recommend doing this enough. Draconiphos, on the other hand, comes back to the same control scheme you actually already learned when flying as Buckbeak during the Care of Magical Creatures. So in many ways, putting those skills into practice here for tighter squeezes when you need to enter some spaces as a smaller dragon is very rewarding, and you actually get to develop that further in the final exams timers. Furthermore, the fact that you control dragons here but also collect dragon cards is incredibly cool. There is really nothing, and I mean nothing bad I can say about this challenge. Even the difficulty feels appropriate, which is another one of those things where Prisoner of Azkaban is almost always on the easier side, and I can't recommend this enough. When you 100% the challenge, try and go for the best time. Track it yourself and just go for it and have absolute blast. Furthermore, the level is blessed with really fun secrets. Whether it's spinning circles, spinning tower, or some really hidden gargoyle heads here and there producing cauldron cakes, there's a secret behind every nook and cranny. I can say with absolute confidence this is the best level of Prisoner of Azkaban, and honestly, probably the one where the most effort was put into. What a great level, and just for this alone, I am so happy that I got to play this game. In our game ranking, this leaves Prisoner of Azkaban with only one truly phenomenal level, but what a strong entry, and giving it additional 4 points, leaving us with a 35-point total. Which means it can no longer beat the Philosopher's Stone or the Chamber of Secrets, which, if we are looking at the retail version of Chamber of Secrets, are tied to 1 point. If we are looking at the extended mod version of Chamber of Secrets, it has quite the big advantage of 15 points. Anyway, let's now see who's gonna be the absolute winner. In the second place, it's the Philosopher's Stone, and its absolute best level, Sneak Up to the Tower. Normally, I would probably start out by saying a lot of my thoughts were already echoed in its counterpart, Sneaking Down from the Tower, but that's not the case at all. There is a reason I consider this a much better level. First of all, the sense of isolation at the very beginning, where it's a personal duel between just you and Filch, is absolutely incredible. We are breaking rules and we are running the risk of being expelled and ruining our life if we are caught by this creepy old man. I still remember the absolute sense of relief when a door closes behind me. We are in isolation from one another. He can no longer get to me and exits an area via some hidden bookcase or a secret that only he knows about. Heck, he probably knows about more of them than Fred and George, being the caretaker. Furthermore, There's an absolutely phenomenal cameo from Peeves. This is the first time he actually helps you out before you sneak down from the tower, and the fact that we don't have to fight him, probably Filch does, is awesome. It gives you a hint on how to get rid of Filch, which is excellent. Furthermore, there are multiple exploration loops in the same areas as you uncover additional layer of complexity between them, and the fact that you often have to leave the safe area you just uncovered and go back to the dangerous one really says something about you having the guts to do what's right and actually help Norbert the dragon. To this day, I don't know how Harry keeps him quiet under that cloak. I don't honestly care. It seems like a lot of trouble to clean up Hagrid's mess, but hey, what are friends for? And I'll be honest, the moment when you reach the top of the tower is unlike anything else. I mean, just the basic principle of reaching the top of the tower is naturally more satisfying than coming down the tower. But the purple sky with the dark silhouettes flying on broomsticks is the one peak Philosopher's Stone moment for me. This is what captures the game right here in a nutshell. The wine purple colored sky, magic brimming in the air, Harry being cast light at from the inside of the warmth of the tower being the only recognizable silhouettes, while everyone else is covered in a nightly dark shroud. Now, why the hell did Charlie and the rest of the bastards could not bring us down from the tower, I will never understand, but hey, it at least gave us a subsequent excellent level. Nevertheless, guys, there are excellent secrets everywhere, some of the scariest Lumos climb I've ever seen that really gets my stomach in a knot, and overall, you have yourself an absolutely fantastic level. I love the fact that I used to absolutely hate it as a kid. I was so scared of collecting the beans on the bookcases, I would just skip everything and run past Filch to be done with it, and as an adult, I can't get enough of this absolutely magical level. I would like to consider it a bit of a sign of growth and maturity, where I welcome challenge and adversity, and it is one of the harder levels of the game, which again, is a bit on the rarer side here. Truly, I have only good things to say about this level, and let me guys know if you agree with my choice. The best, or at least my best pick for the best Philosopher's Stone level. Coming back to our game ranking, this leaves the Philosopher's Stone with 5 overall phenomenal levels, granting us 20 extra points, leading to the overall number of 59 points. A huge 14-point head start over the Prisoner of Azkaban. Let's now see how the Chamber of Secrets will be doing and what level could possibly be deserving of the first spot, the best level of the entire trilogy. Well guys, if you know these games and you've been paying attention, you know there's one spell challenge I have not yet talked about.
You've done it, Harry! You have mastered Spongify!
That's right, Professor Lockhart, the Spongify Challenge. If anyone ever asks me what does it actually feel like to be happy, and I mean truly meaningfully happy, what I usually tell them is playing the Spongify Challenge in Chamber of Secrets. Why is that? This is the single most fun and mechanically different spell of the entire Harry Potter 2 that actually does something else than remove obstacles created for it. It unlocks completely new type of navigation, it unlocks all sorts of secrets in all other explorable areas we're gonna come back to, but I can't really give extra points to Spongify Challenge itself for that. I need to focus on the secrets in this challenge, and my god, they are plentiful. 16 of them in fact, which is insane. This is also the most entertaining speedrun level in the entire game, simply via the virtue of you being able to jump over enemies as you cast Spongify on those tantalizing green carpets. The sheer joy I feel because of the bright colors, the beautiful music. Some of them really make my blood boil as the speed increases. There is also Hedwig that we can cast Alahamora at for whatever reason to open up a secret. I don't get it, I love it. There is an entire portrait you can walk through here, which, okay, is also a secret in the extended mod library, but it was originally here for the first time. If you have close attention to detail, you get to cast at a small upside down portrait to completely change the direction and orientation of the stairs. These are the best secrets. You can either decide to make the very difficult jump for the final or penultimate secret, or you can decide to leave the cobweb alone to walk across it. There are so many ways you can approach every single challenge here. The fun doesn't end, and I love replaying this level over and over. And maybe to emphasize my own personal joy, just listen to Professor Lockhart's joy when you master the Spongify challenge.
Congratulations, Harry Potter! You have mastered my Spongify spell challenge! 50 points to Gryffindor!
There is not a single instance of more fun and entertaining navigation throughout any level of the trilogy that I can think of than when there are Spongify carpets, and especially it's best here in the Spongify challenge. And I feel I to an extent give it credit for many other levels with the Spongify carpets, but it all to an extent started here. This is its origin, this is where we learn to finally play around. It also unlocks the shortcuts in the Hogwarts Grand Staircases. It just introduces an entire new dimension of fun, and I can't blame Prisoner of Azkaban for carrying this spell over. It was really needed. Once you go Spongify, you don't go back. The moment of learning Spongify essentially marks the point where you realize you've been playing everything the wrong way, and from now on, you will be playing it the better way. I know that's an exaggeration, there's no Spongify in the first game, but it completely changes the basic platforming. It has speedrunning implications, for the better, mind you, and it, I think, also led to Prisoner of Azkaban being a better game than it would have been without it. And notice how we no longer have Spongify in Goblet of Fire. See? I see a pattern there. Games with Spongify are the best for a reason. So that's it for our levels ranking, but what does this mean exactly for our games ranking? Well, I already spoiled the surprise. Prisoner of Azkaban in the third place with 35 points, Philosopher's Stone in the second place with 59 points, but this is where it gets really interesting. If we consider the original retail version of Chamber of Secrets, it had, again, 5 phenomenal levels, that's 20 extra points to its retail count. We are at 59 points! Guys, it's an inconclusive tie with the Philosopher's Stone. So I cannot tell you which game is better, the points are here. I can only tell you which level I consider one step higher, and I do consider the Spongify challenge level better than sneaking up the tower from Philosopher's Stone, because that level just changes everything forever for the better. However, if we were to introduce the extended mod into the mix, it would mean we are adding those 20 points on top of 54 previous points, adding up to total number of 74 points for the extended mod. And this, my friends, is 15 more points above the Philosopher's Stone, which is 14 points above the Prisoner of Azkaban. So it's up to you to decide whether you consider this fair. Should we just compare the retail versions of the games? Or is it okay to compare with the extended mod version of Chamber of Secrets? I'm not gonna answer that for you, it's something you get to decide for yourselves. Nevertheless, I think both of these perspectives are absolutely fascinating. So that's it for my own personal ranking, guys. I'm not sure Gingerbread Man agrees with me, he's probably gonna let me have it, but I hope you guys were able to at least have fun, and thank you so much for joining me this year. Again, like I said, this ranking has been sort of swimming in my mind for the past 3 years, and I'm so happy to put that into a video, finally. It's incredibly satisfying, and it feels like a proper farewell to these PC games. And I say farewell, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna ever cover them in the future. Actually, the future, oh that's right, what's next? First of all, I want to say thanks to my amazing patrons, and then I'm gonna give you guys a hint for what's next for the next year's advent calendar. So first of all, I want to say thanks to my free patron members, and especially my loyal Winstons. And I'm not gonna be reading this out, I have memorized all of you guys, and there's more of you than a year ago, which is incredible. So first of all, thank you to Blank Goopel, Mick, Severin Drax, Enstickle, Katie Danger, Boother2, Basic Brani, Bino, and Alex Clark. You guys are incredible, thank you so much. I hope you'll be able to take some time off work during this holiday to properly rest. Next, I want to say big thanks to my caretaker Winstons, Michael McConkey, Karavetu, Renegade Durney, Blanket Fox, Jonathan Jones, Dick Debbie, and PD92. Thank you guys so much for your support of the channel. I would not be able to do it without you, and I hope you manage to stuff yourselves with something absolutely delicious during this Christmas. Furthermore, I want to give special thanks to my brave veteran Winstons, all three of them, Andrea Paviglianiti, Alexander, and Richard Dearman. You guys are amazing, thank you for your valiant support of the channel, and I also hope you're gonna get some big gifts this year, or you already have it at the time of watching this video. And finally, I want to give one very special thanks to my one and only fine vintage Winston, Akira Foxmind. Without your support, Akira, I would not be able to do this, so thank you again so much. I hope you not only get big gifts, but are able to eat something delicious and have a proper break. Honestly, the longer time of work or anything productive, the better. And I'm gonna follow you in suit after tomorrow. Okay guys, so thank you to my Patreons again. Again, if you do decide to join my Patreons and support me, I will be incredibly grateful. I'm a believer in direct support, so your support essentially just means I am able to afford to take more time off to dedicate to this video, and if anything, I hope this year's advent calendar has been a proof of that. Furthermore, I want to also give you a hint as to what's next. The fact that we covered Goblet of Fire in one video might have maybe been a bit of a shock. Maybe you expected that's what I'm gonna dedicate next year's advent calendar to, or now you may be hoping I will tackle the Order of Phoenix PC game, which a lot of you guys love, or the Half-Blooded Prince and Deathly Hallows. I have yet to hear anything good about those games. So what's up next? Well, I am not gonna continue with the Order of Phoenix, and I'm sorry if that's a big disappointment to many of you. I want to actually go back to the first year. And I'm still toying between two different ideas I have. So I'm not gonna tell you exactly what it is because I might change my mind later, but I'm gonna give you a hint that I'm gonna roll right now. So until we talk each other again, if you're here, you know, just for the Harry Potter every year, I hope to see you in 1 year's time, or if you stick around for other coverage I do, mostly Tomb Raider games, I hope to see you there. I cannot take a break, I need to create a huge video for New Year's Eve. And I'm gonna be creating Tomb Raider 4 Remastered New Game Plus video, where I'm gonna show you where to find all those newly hidden med packs, but how to beat the whole game on this difficulty without using a single one of them, and that's a real tough challenge, but I'm up for it. I managed to pull it off on PlayStation, so I'm gonna do that on PC and record it into one convenient video, okay? So anywho guys, thank you so much for being with me this year, it's been an absolute blast. I'm gonna work on Tomb Raider now and then be able to take some break, and I want to give you a hint as to what's next for the advent calendar next year that I promised.
Harry, over here.